the national entrepreneurship in COVID-19, and more in this report. Government's flagship program to support small businesses has pledged to assist over 500 youth in agriculture. The scheme in phase 1 will start with farmers engaged in vegetables, tubers and maize, as well as players along the livestock value chain, agro-processing and agri-tech. Speaking at the launch of the Youth in Innovative Agriculture Support, Director of Business Support and Policy at the NEIP, Franklin Owusu-Kakari, indicated that the support comes in the form of soft loans.
The beneficiaries of the program will receive an amount ranging from 20,000 Ghana cedis to 200,000 Ghana cedis. And this is a soft loan facility payable within 3 to 5 years at an interest rate of 10% per annum. This project is targeting those who are in the sectors I have just mentioned and have already started something, because the funding is not going into infrastructure. So if you are, let's say, you don't have any poultry structure, you have no idea, but you are interested to go into poultry, wait, your time will come. For this phase 1 is for those who are already having the structures and have started something in the poultry, in the piggery, in the maize farming, in the yam or cassava, in the vegetable farming.
Mr. Owusu-Kakari further explained that this scheme is different because selected farmers will be trained with some other benefits.
The following benefits will be derived from the employment for the youth. Some of the objectives of this project, number 1, is to empower the youth to use technology and other innovative ways for smart farming. This is the time to empower the young people to use this knowledge they've acquired in technology to farming. Number 2, to motivate the youth to accept innovative farming as a commercial business venture. Number 3, train youth in current modernized innovative ways of agriculture. Number 4, help the youth to generate appreciable income to meet their personal and business needs. Number 5, to help the youth to improve their standard of living through improved income.
Applications are open till the 5th of February 2022 for persons between 18 and 40 years.
Income to meet their personal and business needs. Number 5, to help the youth to improve their standard of living through improved income.
Applications are open till the 5th of February 2022 for persons between 18.
2016, number Bessia, number my year for best at 350. And I'm sad for a from donate 150. 150 more one, Rebecca me say, or baby bamho. Number some bars or baby, almost say, and this need be free. Dasso, we are Sophia for penny. You will see, I will see on Metro Mefu. I must, will be one night, and my better my fool gopher, and you may need play papa. And yes, I'm going to Americans. Nipa Makuma could be a noon, a son, the original phone to try, none of Yawada no mas arbitra, papa, and then media me out, papa.
The story of Akuetteh Dankwa defines the state of Ghana's agricultural sector before the end of 2016. Under the previous government, Ghana's agriculture was in a state of decline. Prior to 2017, the performance of the sector had been erratic, recording a growth rate of 0.8% in 2011, one of the lowest in modern times. A 2.9% growth in 2016 told no better story.
We met a sector which was underperforming, with one of the lowest agricultural productivity in not only West Africa or Africa, but the whole world. You have yields which were very, very low, and we are talking about across board. We're talking about food crops, we're talking about our famous cocoa, we're talking about tree crops. The yields were very low.
Farmers like Akuetteh Dankwa had their livelihoods taken away and neglected. The Agric Ministry itself was abandoned.
You look at the budget, the percentage of the budget which went to agriculture also was going down to the extent that by the time they left office, it was less than 1% of total budgetary allocation was into this ministry. It really showed you that although the rhetorical was very, very loud, oh, farmers are important to us, but in reality, nothing was happening in the sector.
Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana,
Having effectively diagnosed the problems of the sector, President Akuetteh took the decision to do everything possible to put agriculture back on the path of transformation and work towards harnessing effectively its potential.
To you, the students, make full use of your time here so that you can have a productive future. And the investment that is being made.
Lands. Only 1,181,788 has been cultivated, leaving 281,562 hectares uncultivated. How can agriculture help solve our unemployment problem or issues? We're faced with this big problem. How can agriculture help? Now, I have my guest already with me in the Cities of Love 99.5, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you Dr. Amos Mensah. He's a lecturer at Department of Agriculture, Economics, Agribusiness, and Extension at Key University. Doc, good morning to you.
Thank you very much.
And I guess all is well with you?
Yes.
Have you said a prayer for the Black Stars?
Yes.
As we face the Comoros today?
We are certainly going to go through today.
Also with us in the Cities of Love 99.5 is David Donko. Now, he is CEO of Kingsbridge Farms and AgriHub Ventures. David, good morning.
Good morning.
And I trust all is well with you as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, I was hoping to have seen you in your Black Star, jersey or something like that.
We are supporting them in spirit.
I hear you. So how can we get the youth to get into the space of agriculture? First of all, two questions we're asking. How can agriculture help solve our unemployment situation? How can agriculture help solve our unemployment situation? If you think it can or it cannot, send us voice notes to 05511119995. All right? 05511119995. And aside from that, how can we even get the youth to show more interest in agriculture? See, reading around, one of the biggest concerns that many people have has to do with the fact that the people who are into agriculture right now, people who are above the age, majority of them above the age of 50, and in no time they'll be fading out. What will happen if all the youth that we have are not showing enough interest in agriculture? How do we feed? And my panel will be addressing all that and more this morning for us. One of the things that we need to also have at the back of our minds is that in Ghana, agriculture contributes more than half of the country's GDP. It also provides over 90% of the food needs of the country. But its sustainability is threatened. Now, over the years, our situation in terms of unemployment is getting worse. And Eugene Osetutu, our fact checker, has been able to pull a few things together, and he's going to be running us through. Eugene, good morning.
David, good morning.
So what does the figures look like?
But David, you didn't add my doctor title.
Gradually, when you get it, I'll add it. Don't worry.
So David, last Saturday I was listening to the esteemed doctor of economics, that is Priscilla Chumasiba for Newsfile, and as she was speaking, there were basically 10 moments of great minds, and also speaking on various facets of our economy. And as she was speaking and also making some references to the Ghana Statistical Service report, I was happy that someone at least is reading that document. David, if you take the volumes of reports the Ghana Statistical Service churned out after the 2020 census, which was done in 2021, we see we don't need to even have ministers and everything. You can just pick these data and run with it. Now, David, you know that 1 out of every 3 graduates in Ghana is unemployed. And the most alarming aspect is that most of these people have given hope to search for the jobs. So meaning
they're giving up hope.
Yeah. In searching for the jobs, meaning that, Charlie, they are susceptible to all sorts of things. Now, while scanning through the internet, let me just give you something. When you go to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture's website, the Ashanti region has 1,463,350 hectares of arable land, meaning that these are lands that you can farm on. Now, out of that 1.4 million hectares of arable lands, 1.1 million are cultivated, meaning that we have in excess of about 300,000 that are not cultivated. Now, the Ashanti region population is also 5.4 million, and we also have graduates. Out of it, every 3, 1 is unemployed, and I've actually given the hope to search for the jobs. So I turned on this article on Bloomberg, and it was written by one Moses Mozart Jawu. Forgive me if I made that the name. Now, let me read for you, David. The unemployment rate in Ghana has almost tripled in a little more than a decade, according to the country's latest census. So what the person was doing was that he picked the 2010 census we did and compared with the 2020 census. People will normally say 2021. No, the census is 2020 actually, but because of COVID, it was done in 2021. When you do the comparison, our unemployment figures are almost tripling. David, more than 1.55 million people, or 13.4% of the active population of our country, which are supposed to be eligible to work and all that, are not working according to the Ghana Statistical Service. Ghana, which doesn't produce regular data on unemployment, recorded the jobless rate of 5.3% in the last census in 2010. Research information website Statistica, so it's basically comparing the figures the Ghana Statistical Service did with also a credible platform like Statistica, esteemed the portion of Ghana's population out of work at 4.5%. Now, David, what this percentage means is that we have at least 1.5 million people who qualify to work by age, by the various indices and demography, but the jobs are not available. And David, for me, as a researcher and also as a youth, I see no security threat which is greater than having a population out of your 30.8 million which are viable to work and having about 1.5 million of them out of work. So David, this is basically some numbers on the unemployment situation, and also on the agriculture side, we having in excess of about 300,000 arable lands in just the Ashanti region alone. So David, I'll end it here.
Thank you very much, Eugene. And listeners, we are live on Facebook. You can get us on LUV 99.5 FM on Facebook. And don't just watch the visuals we have for you, but, follow the conversation. Follow the conversation and drop comments or ask questions as well, because we want to win together. If we keep hearing that the unemployment situation is a national security threat and there are opportunities and options, forgive me, opportunities and options available, why don't we tap into it? And that is why we have a young farmer. His name is David Donko, and he's CEO of Cambridge Farms and AgriHub Ventures. He's with us in the studios. He'll be telling us why, young as he is, he decided to venture into agriculture and how he's faring in there. He'll be telling us about the obstacles or the challenges that he is facing and how we can iron all those things out to make it better for all of us. Also with us is Dr. Amos Mensah. He's a lecturer with the Department of Agricultural Economics, Agribusiness and Extension at the KNUST. So let me start off the conversation with you. And for you listeners, what we're asking of you is quite simple. How can we use agriculture to help fix our unemployment situation? How can we use it? Share ideas with us. How can agriculture help solve our unemployment issues? And again, how can we even make it more attractive or enabling enough for the youth to consider going into agriculture? Now, you've heard that the youth, especially the graduate youth, are crying about unemployment, and we are told that many of them are already even giving up the hope of getting jobs. So, a lot of studies show that agriculture has the potential to create, employment for the youth. So, how come they're not, tapping into this? Doc.
Yeah, thank you very much, David, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, agriculture has always supported us as African and as Ghanaian. So the potential has always been there. But like you rightly said, the word has been potential. To unlock this potential, to make sure that we get the maximum out of agriculture is what we have not been doing or we have not done over the years. You see, over the years, agriculture has evolved, moving from the peasant production or household production to a commercial entity. And we are facing this global competition. So if you have the resources, as we do have in Ghana, the land, labor, and everything, and we are not making the right investments, agriculture will not contribute and will not absorb the youth as we wish.
So when you talk about the right investments, what do you mean?
So let me take you to few. So land is a big issue in Ghana. We have the land, but you cannot just get up and go and start production or any part or be part of the actors in the agribusiness chain just because you want to do it. So land has been an issue. Agriculture, because of the huge investment, if somebody gets a land, they are looking at 10, 20 years investment, sometimes more. So if we are able to get our land tenure system correct, said that an investor or a young person trying to enter into agriculture, just from the production point of view, get this 5-10 hectares land, and they're going to stay on it and produce over it. Then he or she can be confident that if I invest in this land, I'm going to get something. That's the first thing. But the second thing is agriculture has changed over the period of time. Climate change is making agriculture more worse, meaning we need more investment. The problem why the youth is not entering in agriculture is lack of capital. David, the problem is along the value chain. If you decide to even be an actor, even any point trying to enter into agriculture, you need huge capital. But where are you going to get this capital from? If you look at the commercial banks or the commercial financial institution, most of them are not interested in advancing loan or financing any agricultural enterprise. Yes, banks will be after you to, if you're a government worker, to provide you money for your household, for your cars and everything. But the moment you said, I'm going to agriculture, you can be sure that your loan perhaps will not be approved. And what has been the problem? The problem has been the fact that as a nation, we have an issue with traceability. Sometimes you give a loan, and I've talked to my friends in the banking sector, in the financial institution, and I've asked, what is going on? I said, Doc, we have portfolio over there, but managing this portfolio in terms of agriculture finance is too risky sometimes. It's the fact that as a nation and as a youth, sometimes our priorities are not set right. You advance this money to these young people, and then instead of using it in the right agriculture production or the venture, it turned out to be something else.
But
so tracking back.
But that's when you give out the money.
Yes.
I know that some of the banks do this. They give you people who will be monitoring you. They give you people who will be working alongside with you to ensure that, well, the money that we've advanced you or we've given to you is being put to the right use. And even if when you need some support in terms of education or whatever, there's still support. But let me take a few things from what you have said and we advance on it. Because, again, many describe agriculture as the key driver to economic development, which of course is true. It's a key driver. And you have talked about the fact that many of the youth don't want to go into this agribusiness because of some obstacles or challenges. You've enumerated some. Capital is an issue. Land is an issue. But do you think that the interest in itself is there? Is it attractive enough? Because here we're talking about graduate youth. They have their certificates. And they believe that with their certificates, they ought to be given jobs. So is it attractive enough? Aside from these challenges we talked about, the land, the capital, is the interest there for the young graduates to go into this agribusiness?
As it is now, not really. Because, like I've already said, having proper structure to finance agriculture is all that it takes to attract the youth into agriculture. Okay? Because as we are still doing it as using outdated modes of production, right? A young man still going to agriculture, trying to use cutlass and hoes and getting people to the land. They use a weed some 10 square meter and then go home and those kind of. We are not transitioning to the modern agriculture where one instrument or one agricultural mechanization instrument can solve the labor problem for us, right? We normally think about getting big tractors, but the issue is not a big tractor issue. If you look at the Asian countries producing this rice that we import, one person is having a small piece of land, but the support in terms of not a big tractor, but a small mechanized machine that person can push. It tills the land, it plants, it's within removing the labor intensive part of it and replacing it with capital or equipment is something that we have not transitioned, okay? And we are still relying on rainfall, right? To set up a real production. It doesn't matter whether you are into the fruit and livestock product, you still need water. You still need constant supply of water, reliable water. And that means irrigation or finding means of getting a reliable water, rain harvesting, wherever these technologies have to be there.
We live in a country where Burkina Faso would, open its Bagri Dam.
Yes.
We've been talking about, putting up this Palugu Dam or something.
Yes.
So we can use it for farming. The question is, yes, the intent is there, the idea is there, the thought is there, maybe the will is there. The speed to do some of these things is also a concern. So as a country, you've named or listed some of the things, and I mentioned the land, we mentioned capital, the lack of interest is all there and all that. How should we tackle this area, agribusiness, such that the youth would have interest in there, go in there, and reduce the number of unemployment in our country? What should we be doing?
I think the government together with the financial institution, and this one I mean the formal financial institution, we have to restructure and re-strategize, right? Like I'm happy you mentioned that banks have dedicated personnel where they create their own database. They get these dedicated young men like my friend over here who are willing and ready with even some sort of capital already there to go into agriculture and then track them. So for instance, let's take any bank at all, and within their portfolio they decide that, okay, 2022-2023 we have dedicated this amount to support agribusiness or agriculture, but this person at the bank or this group of people are supposed to create a database, look for the guys and then support them, not necessarily giving the money to their account, but actually financing what it takes. So do they need some machines? Do they need some capital to put up this building? Do they need some silos, some support? So that, like I said, they are really investing in the aspect of the production or the processing aspect, such that it reduces the capital. At least for them, they will pay it over a long period of time. It's an investment and it's going to yield. But the point is, we have to find a way of getting the youth to know that there is a support system or a structure whereby if they decide to go into agriculture, they are going to get the necessary support. The last thing we have not talked about is the fact that there has been production, and most often, I just talked to a friend where he got a lot of broilers, but there's no market. Not that people, but because we don't have a proper linkage where after the production, what's happened next? That's very, very important. This post-harvest management issues, where a person will go through all the labor intensive, all the suffering, and then produces something, and then the thing gets stuck either at the farm or still at some level where they are not selling it to make profit, but they are feeding these animals, or they are still doing something to keep the stock.
We have heard stories about tomatoes getting rotting on farm because we cannot, convey them to
so
the
linkage to the market has not been established.
But what about adding value?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Adding value to whatever we harvest.
So you realize that if you look at the chain, we have different actors. Now, somebody who is just a processor and adding value to it is just one of the actors. That can be a big company or a small cottage company, processing tomatoes, for instance, right? Their job is to know the number of farmers who are supplying, and these are investments that they make. So they need constant supply, and it's supposed to be throughout the year, not just some few months there's a glut and some few months there's none that they have to import in order to process. So if we are able to support those who are in the production sector, said that they know exactly after production, where do I turn these output to, the product. What I talk about, the linkage to the market, is a market. So if I'm a farmer, Amos, I'm a farmer, and I know that I'm producing such amount of tomatoes, but I know right after it's I've gotten the specification from you, David, I'm bringing to you straight away. That means I know exactly how much I'm bringing. You are going to also rely that I'm bringing this amount. My friend is bringing this amount. So your processing is running throughout the year, right? But we don't have this linkage. There are so many times that farmers will produce and they don't know what to do. People, some intermediate people will come from Accra of the big market and then decide to cheat them.
But again, isn't it amazing that we have tomatoes brought in from Burkina Faso? Yeah, we cultivate tomatoes here.
Yes.
We have onions from Niger and all, and we see there are trucks loaded with onions. It means money's into their economy.
Exactly.
So how come we are producing, but not having market for it, and yet we're craving for tomatoes from Burkina Faso, or onions from Niger, or whatever?
So if you listen to the markets, for instance, with reference to particularly tomato, there are a variety of tomato traits that these market women are looking for. And instead of supporting our farmers to get these varieties to produce them, right? We are talking about longer shelf life, because you know how our markets operate. Yeah. They pack it, they unpack it. So these tomatoes can get deteriorated over a long period. So the one we used to be producing, and I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, but I was told that the perishability rate was so high because the shelf was so thin. And the amount of water in it was so too watery. So if they go and buy those from our producers here, before it gets to the market, they have lost almost 60%.
So what about the Crop Research Institute?
The Crop Research Institute have been doing right thing, but are they supporting them to get the right variety to the farmers at the cheapest rate?
And who's supporting the government?
Government and private entities need to come in. Because we realize that, David, we realize that the government cannot absorb everything. And I'm not here to speak for the government. I'm not a politician. I'm just an academic. But over our reliance over the period of time that we will throw everything to the government. Government, as we have it now, the setup we have now, they have their own priorities. The type of governance system we are running right now and the democracy, they come in with their own priorities, things to make them elected, not things to make the country develop. You see, there are two things that we are doing here. A government come in with the view of the next 4 years ahead. What are the things do I have to do? It doesn't matter if it's just whitewashing the already cracked wall to let me get elected. That's different from getting a nation move in terms of sector development. That has nothing to do with politics or partisan politics. So agriculture, for instance, will need the government to step in, but we need private entities meeting the government halfway.
Isn't that what the Planning for Food and Jobs is supposed to be doing?
It's supposed to be doing, but the question is the money really flowing to the right channels? The people who really need it, the people who really on the ground and doing the production, the processing, and the transport, are they getting the right support?
Doc, just answer this question for me, and then I'll go to David Donko.
Thank you.
How will this help the unemployment situation we have on our hands if we're able to get it right? How will it help in terms of the unemployment situation on our hands if we get the youth showing interest and going into agriculture?
David, I'm telling you, if we are able to even get the current 30% of the current unemployed youth moving to the various sectors of agriculture, not necessarily production. Like I said, there's the processing, there's the sales, there's the agri-input section, there's the transportation section. Just 30% of our current unemployed youth going into becoming various actors. I'm telling you, it's going to improve our economic situation tremendously. It's also going to reduce the security threat that we have daily on our roads and attack at homes, because the youth need to do something. So getting it right in terms of agriculture, it will solve all of us our problem, not only through security situation, but the national security threat will be muchly improved.
I hear you. So let me come to you, David, now. I mean, you're very, very young, and for those of you who are watching us on Facebook, you can tell that he's a very young, chap, and he's into farming. Tell us about what the motivation was for you. What drove you to become a farmer?
Okay, David, thanks for this question. My motivation was I wanted to create opportunity for others. And I realized that creating opportunities for others in terms of employment, the best place to venture was agriculture, because they have an unending value chain. If you look at agriculture very well, it has an unending value chain. And one thing that we all, like most of the time, we overlook is the sales aspect of agriculture. The sales aspect of agriculture, it brings ideas, it brings innovation, and it creates employment. Because if, like Doctor was saying, we all produce tomatoes. Okay, I'm a youth. I'm done with agriculture at KNUST or agribusiness. I've seen tomatoes getting spoiled year in, year out, and I ventured into this business. Let me create this idea. Let me slide these tomatoes into a container, refrigerate it, put it on the market, try and see if it will work. It's an idea. It's a form. It brings innovation. In turn, it will bring employment. I, for one, I raised some broilers this Christmas, and
so he's into poultry farming before he was a banker. Yes. And that's why I asked that earlier question as to what motivated you to leave the banking job and say to yourself you want to become a farmer. Exactly. Because it's an area where the youth look down upon. They think that there's no respect in being a farmer. So what made you leave the banking sector to go into farming?
Okay.
So yes, you want to help people, but I'm sure there's something else that pushed you.
I think farming is more profitable than
so
the banking sector.
How come other youth do not see that profitability in there?
Because we haven't given them enough education on it and enough training. I'm thinking we need to get some of these successful entrepreneurs to some extent into our classrooms. They give the best motivation. Because imagine, let's say, Daco Farms is in a classroom teaching practical agriculture in terms of sales and other innovations. The students, at least, if he's teaching 30 students, 10 will have the motivation to follow his steps at least to go under his feet and learn. Indirectly, he is bringing more people from the classroom into the field. But if we distance the practicability of it from the classrooms, it becomes weird. Now, I had a friend who was like, so these birds, when you bring them, are they this small? And I was like, yeah, they are old. He doesn't have the idea, like the slightest idea that the birds are this tiny, and you give them 3 months and they are this big.
And you need the right skills.
The skills.
How many of our youth out there have the skills? I mean, you might even want to venture into this area of agribusiness. And we have a variety of farming that people can go into. Getting the skills is a challenge itself. So when you wanted to begin, tell us some of the challenges or the obstacles you had that you think government or people who have the powers should look at that would encourage people to go into agribusiness or agriculture. What are the challenges you faced?
The biggest challenge for the youth and everyone who wants to go into agriculture, to me, there are two. Is the land acquisition, because getting land alone can kill all your.
How frustrating is it? And is it from the traditional rulers or
mostly from the traditional?
What do they do?
The frustrating bit is, you buy the land, you make payments, even for them to give you the right documents, for you to even proceed to a bank to solicit for money or capital, it becomes another issue. I bought a land somewhere around Majisu area. It took me about 3 years before I was able to secure the land documents.
And within the 3 years, were you farming on the land or you were not?
I was farming. Can you have access to it when you don't?
So 3 years wasted.
3 years wasted.
It's luck investment.
Then the next thing I would touch on is we don't have the right capital framework for startup programs. We don't have it.
Obantampa, someone say about one.
Oh, okay. Today we are doing practicals. So we'll take that one out. David, if you don't have the right financial framework for these startups, trust me, I for one, you know the pain I had to go through to get myself into poultry. I had to go into training for about 6 months, learn the nitty-gritties of poultry before I ventured into it. But the youth, do they have that
luxury of time?
That luxury of time.
We want everything quick, fast.
Exactly.
And so anything that would, towards that, wouldn't, give it a chance.
So, like my brother said, the right mindset to go into agriculture is not even there, because agriculture is not just something you do today and tomorrow you are reaping the profit. You go in with expectation, yes, but it's time. So if you look at any production aspect, the minimum amount of time that we are talking about is 3 to 4 months, even if you decide to go and produce tomatoes. Right? So if you decide to produce tomatoes, the minimum time framework within which you can start seeing the product or the produce to sell is 3 to 4 months. And we have a lot of people who are most of these you need something to survive today, let alone wait 6 months or 1 year to harvest. And I'm talking about within this 6 months or 1 year, you are putting a lot of money and effort into it. Otherwise, the initial investment will go waste.
Yes.
Because of the risky aspect of it.
And it becomes locked up funds as well.
Exactly. That's why we were talking about the right financial framework. Because if I'm venturing into agriculture, imagine I have the space, I have the buildings already. It will take me not less than 6 months for me to start realizing sales and profits. But the banking sector, their framework, they give you the loan February, they are taking profits in March, whether you have the money or not.
So to you, what do you think ought to be done that would encourage more of our youth, the graduate youth, to consider farming? Give us some basic list of things that ought to be done.
Okay, for me, the first thing I would say is we need to bring these successful agricultural entrepreneurs into our classroom space. One. Then two, we need to create the right agricultural framework in terms of finance. To them. Then the value chain that Doctor was talking about. I produce chicken, I produce tomato. What's next after I'm done with the produce? I know a set of farmers who produced broilers, about 20,000 broilers this Christmas for a particular businessman in Kumasi here. The person hasn't showed up with their payments.
Although he received the eggs.
He's received the eggs and the chicken.
And he hasn't come back to pay.
Yes. And there is someone who is even on government support. And look at how he's tackling the other young farmers who are coming up.
Is this somebody who's into fast food operations or some food joint?
The person is already a big time poultry farmer.
Okay.
And he's created this. I would say he subletted some contracts. He was supposed to produce 1 million broilers this Christmas, and he sublet about I think 500,000 to other people. And I know a set of youth who went to him, took about 20,000 up to produce, and up to us and now they don't have their money.
So Doc, the question that comes into mind again is this: the youth are unemployed.
Yes.
And yet we are being told that there is a big opportunity in agribusiness. Unfortunately, from the top to the bottom, we have not been able to streamline things well enough to make it enabling, attractive, profitable for people to venture into it. For several years, from 92 onwards, I mean, we have heard the statements and the calls to make agriculture enabling enough, attractive enough for the youth to get in there. As we speak, we're not just talking about food sustainability or security, because like I said in my intro, many of the people who are into farming right now are getting old and will phase out. What will happen to us if we don't fine-tune this, get it right for the youth to show interest in it, and these people fizzle out, and the youth are still unemployed and are not showing interest in farming? What will happen to us as a nation?
David, the situation is even worse, because not only the old people are getting old, then we have huge rural-urban migration. If you go to the rural areas right now and you decide to go into agriculture, the labor, because we are still in a very labor capital intensive agriculture, you will not even have them. They are all around Accra, Kumasi, and the big cities looking for jobs that are not there. So the situation is even worse. So now, David, like you said, I know you are looking for practical solutions. So let's bring the conversation down. Two things. We as human being Ghanaians here, we have to a lot of attitudinal change. Because like my brother said here, we have this in some sort of lack of sincerity. You are doing agriculture, which is a risky business, with a business partner. You use your resources to produce and pass on to the next person, who might be a processor, whatever. But your money is not coming back. Exactly. And the people where you borrow the money, they are on your neck. And that gives signal to all the youth around there that, look at him. Right? So it's become a disincentive rather than incentive for the youth. So we need attitudinal change. We have, as a nation, huge problem with being honest with ourselves. Right? This is not different from the people we are competing for. Sometimes along the value chain, they have never seen people with their eyes. It's just a matter of telephone and emails, and the business is flowing flawless. Here in Ghana, you cannot rely on telephone and emails. You have to actually travel there, see the person, make sure you get some form beyond measure collateral to make sure before pushing this to this person. You have it. So that is the first thing we have to deal with. If we want to move on, there's no magic bullet to it. We have to face the fact that we need attitudinal change, both as young people in Ghana and as people. Now the second thing is the government coming in and helping structure, like my brother said, the agricultural financing system. We don't have it. We have agricultural development bank, which has nothing to do with agriculture. I'm sorry, I have to say it blankly. And if they are listening to me, some of them will come. Some of them are my friends. But go to their portfolio and look at 2021, how much they gave out in support of agriculture. And if you talk to them, say, Doc, because of our inability to track these guys to get the money back. And remember, we have regulators which are forcing us to get our money back. One friend of mine who is working over there told me, do you know what? We supported a farmer to produce huge maize. They went in the night, the farmer got all the maize crop out and set the farm ablaze, just to claim that the farm has been burnt. So you see about the insincerity I'm talking about here. You've gotten the loan, you've gotten the produce, but they have no intention of paying the loan back. Somehow we have managed to convince ourselves that loan is a free money. Most of us think loan, once you get it, no, you have to find a way to default. So we have to find a way to structure it. Because if the government is going to put money into it, the government is going to borrow, either from the public or wherever, to pump into agriculture. So we have to find, how do we get, for instance, and it needs to be transparent and open. So the Minister of Agriculture can help us that this year we have this amount of money, this percentage is going to poultry production. And we know that in the poultry production, the feed and the medication is their main problem. So we are not going to buy feed for them. We are going to set feed mills, local feed mills, to make it to make the prices very low. Right? I'm not talking about paying the farmers directly. You know their constraints. So you look at the specific aspects. Poultry production, what is their main constraint? Their main constraint is the feed. Beside the feed, it's also the chemicals and the medication. And then the third one is, right, because it's a 6 weeks or maximum 7 weeks period. They have to move on. They have to, all this have to be clear so that they fumigate the place and start the new production. So the 6th week, they know exactly who is taking up these fowls, right? So that they will process it. So then we know that we have a processing issue. We don't have the processing centers where farmers can actually have a contract with these processing centers and then turn up their, so that we have this cut part. Instead of importing this part, we can do it locally here. We are not doing it. The next one is bringing the insurance companies on board, because agriculture is a very risky business. There are times that insurance companies need to set in to offset some of these costs, right? So that farmers will know that they are not in this alone. That one is not set up. If you ask the insurance companies, they say it's too risky. The premium that we want to charge, if we charge it, these producers will collapse. They are not ready. They don't even have the money. So how do we finance it? My brother, we are talking about, we are competing against countries where all these things that we are talking are already advanced and are being even improved. That said that farmers can have these sophisticated machines. I studied in Germany and I stayed in Germany for quite a time. David, if you go to a German farm where they are producing milk, you'll be amazed. They have these huge cattle with machines and everything. And if you look at 2 people on the farm, but the sophistication attached to it, reducing the work, and they know exactly where the milk is going, where the meat is going, and they know where, the insurance, everything. Right? The structure is there. You are competing against such a farmer, whereby, like my brother here, he's alone. He's alone. How can he compete?
Not to cut you short. I went to 2 different insurance companies last year to insure my farm. They all told me if it's poultry, they won't come.
Exactly.
So these things that you guys are enumerating as obstacles or challenges or problems, they're not things that are beyond us, are they?
No.
We're not just thinking right.
Yes.
Exactly. What would it take for us to think right? From our top whatever to the people on the ground, what do we need to change? You talk about attitudinal change. What are how do we start it? How do we get it right?
Let me be blank. Let's depoliticize development. If we are able to decouple development from politics, we will be good. We are not able to, we think politics is the same as development or developmental plan. It's not. Okay? After the election, we have to put politics aside.
And put Ghana first.
And get the right people with the right mentality in there. David, if we decide to give sensitive position to our party people with no technical ability to supervise what needs to be done, we are pumping money into that sector, but it will go to waste because the person or the group of people in charge think this are money for us to siphon to our party.
But they have directors who they work.
Directors in Ghana have no power, David. Now every government institution have somebody from party who is more powerful than that director. And if you that director, you want to maintain your job, you better keep quiet. Because that person who is clueless have more to say than you, the director, who knows what to do. And that's why I'm saying that let's put the hypocrisy aside. If we want to develop, let's face it.
And the potential in agriculture, the fact that we can be self-sufficient and feed,
yes,
but yet still also sell out and market our produce,
exactly,
will give us so much money. And we are blessed with good arable lands.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we don't want to take advantage of the situation and make it better. We are rather doing galamsey on lands that can give us good amounts of cocoa produce or other farm produce. We're doing galamsey to destroy the land. What and we are told as if we talk as if we're fixing the problem. We talk as if we're doing away with illegal what do you call it mining. Yet we are not. So David, so you're talking about you wanted to help people, and that's how come you left your banking job. You have gone into poultry. One question I'd like to ask you: how many people have you employed, for example? Because we're talking about unemployment here.
Yes. For direct employment, I have about 6 workers. Indirect, I have about 12.
Okay.
And let me break it down. The 6 direct are the people who are on the farm. And the 12 indirect are people who pick eggs and chicken from the farm to sell. I have this guy who I completed KNUST with in 2011 or 2012. He stayed in the house for about 2 years, jobless. So I told him that, okay, so Raymond, why don't you go into this particular business? Come and pick eggs from me. You are in Accra. You have a sister in Accra.
Raymond is unemployed.
He's unemployed, but now I'll say he's part of my workers because it depends on the produce on my farm. So he picks about 200 crates every week from my farm. In Takrady, he's able to make about 4 cedis per crate. In Accra, he's able to make about 2 cedi 50 pesos per crate after transportation and everything. So this guy picks about 200 crates. So give him an average of 3 cedis profit and multiply by the 200. How much is he getting, David?
That's 600
600 cedis or more.
That's every week.
every week.
So there's someone 600 cedis times 4, 2,000.
And that's what we're talking about, the value chain.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about, the value chain. But yes or no, have you had any regrets leaving the bank to go into farming?
Never.
You have not. I'll come to you again and I'll ask you to speak to the youth out there, especially those who are listening to us who are unemployed. They have their certificates and they think that they should be able to get a job with it. What would you would want to say to them in terms of going into agriculture? I'll come to you shortly. But listen, let's activate the phone lines on 03220 83596. 03220 83596. And we ask you to send us voice notes to our WhatsApp number. Interestingly, some of you have decided to send messages. You've typed messages like this one from Joseph N.T. He's an economics student at KNUST, and he says many Ghanaian youths and graduates are not willing to engage in agribusiness because Ghana herself has not taken any serious measures to make this sector more attractive to the stimulate young men and women to the sector. For instance, modern agribusiness uses sophisticated machines, and he's talking about mechanized farming, to ease the farmers' working hours, increasing productivity and improving health conditions of the farmer, whilst Ghana still improvising rudimentary tools which, innovate farmers and make them older before their age. And so he talks about the fact that the tools that they use is not really helping much. I'll be coming to the phone line shortly. And then somebody responds to Josephine T. says, former President, His Excellency Mahama, shouldn't have uttered such. Okay, so let me just hold on there. It was a response to Josephine T. It says, okay, so many Ghanaian youths and graduates are not willing to engage in agribusiness, blah, 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 blah. I'll come back to that message shortly. But let's go on to the phone lines. 03220 83596. 03220 83596. I know you can hear me. Christoph is on, Kwame is on, Robert is on. Let's start with Christoph. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, David. How are you, sir?
Well, the Lord is my shepherd. I'm well.
David, I'm going to pay for my credit because I've been on it for almost 10 minutes. David, this is a very dicey issue you guys discussing. When we look at even our setup, I remember in our school days, the primary school, junior high school, secondary school, the only time you go and read, you go and farm, is when you are under punishment.
Still in the Dedenya exclave.
We grew up to believe that farming is more of a punishment rather than an employment that will give you livelihood. It's serious. When you look at our current junior high school setup, we have 5 courses. We have the pure science, we have the general art, we have the visual art, we have the home economics, and then we have the business. We don't have agric there. We don't have anything like agric science over there. The only time you do agric is when you go to the agric colleges. And that is serious. With the integrated science, we have some limited amount of agric in there. And so we don't have any exposure growing up to become a farmer. Okay? And then two, as you said, when you farm, it takes more than a year before you can reap the fruits. Like the yams, like the cassava, even for the cocoa, it's been years before you can reap the fruit. And we young people, we want something quick.
I hear you, Chris.
Every month, I want salary.
All right, so Chris, I mean, when you ask somebody to weed, and I've heard this saying several times that, so it makes people think that, well, it's a punishment. It's not a punishment. It is something that should rather ginger you and make you have an interest in that. Only unfortunately, we tease ourselves with it, so it makes us think negative about it. But let me speak to Kwame. He's also on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, David.
And welcome, Kwame. Your thoughts?
Thank you, David. David, if you go to Galamsey areas, you see young people, 14, 15, 16, doing Galamsey. What do they get the resources? Where do they get the land? Where do they get the dig the pits? They don't depend on anybody. They do these things out of their own resources. Why? Ready market. When they get the gold, they don't struggle to sell the gold. David, I've been working with farmers for over 20 years. And the challenge confronting agriculture is one. Farmers don't need freebies. They don't need they don't need free fertilizers. All they need is for you and I to patronize what they produce. When farmers don't buy, they run into losses. That is why farmers are poor. That is why they are not able to pay their loans. Go to any of these villages and look at how the so-called middlemen are treating farmers. They take the prices. So if I'm producing, I don't have any control over what I'm producing. Somebody come and tell me how much they want to buy my produce. How do I succeed in this business? Post-harvest, how to store, how to market are the challenges confronting farmers. Let us address these things, and farming will be very attractive in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Kwame, for joining us. And amazing submissions he makes. And, post-harvest losses is something that we need to also consider, because if somebody, for example, like he was saying, if I produce or farm tomatoes and somebody comes to buy the tomatoes from me and knows how to store it, can it, and then store it for a long time, let's say for a shelf life of a year or two, we are all in business. Exactly. Robert, good morning.
Yeah, Dave, good morning. My name is Robert from Faculty of Agriculture. Hi to Amos and the young guy.
Good to have you,
I think
Robert.
that if all radio stations will do what you are doing, agriculture will be able to do well in this country. 2 quick points. I think those of us who are teaching agriculture, we need to have partnerships, strong partnership with industry, so we can have some model farms.
So the question is, what attempts, Robert, what attempts have you made to get this partnership?
Yes, so we have been talking to some of these agri-processors, and it's a long pipeline. I hope that very soon we'll be able to reach some conclusions so that we can have some model farms that we can use to train these ones. Then I think government must also identify some big farms and give them some incentives so that, for example, if they're able to pick about 20 or 30 youth as interns and they keep them there for some time, then they can benefit from some package. If we do that, you will see that a lot of our youth will have practical training and they will develop the interest in agriculture. My last point is that the National Entrepreneurship Program just announced, I think last week, that they have some 30 million or 300 million for some youth. I just pray that they will contact technical experts so that they structure the program such that we'll have the model that the National Service was running some time back. Beyond Wenchi, if you went to Branham, you saw a large tract of land that had been plowed with fertilizers and inputs, and the youth were there happily farming. If we follow some of these models, I'm sure most of our youth will be prepared to go into agriculture. Let ADB focus on agriculture and stop doing the universal banking that other banks are doing. They were created to focus on agri. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir, for listening and for calling. That was Robert. 03220-83596 is the number to call us. How do you think farming or agriculture can help with our unemployment situation? And again, how can we get the youth to show more interest in agriculture? I can see Kofi Bedu is on. Hold on for me, Kofi. But Stephen Wonder is next on the line. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning, Dave. How are you?
I am well, Stephen. Good to have you. Let's hear you. What do you think we ought to do, Stephen? What can we do to get the youth to show more interest in farming?
Farming is my field.
Okay.
And I always like when you set the topic and it is based on farming on your program. But first of all, let me greet your panel members. But I am even standing in my pig farm when we are doing the conversation. But before farming, it is not easy. Before you generate or you start farming, you go through a lot of problems, especially the rearing of animals. Sometimes it is not easy. At first, I was a businessman, selling an items. But I look at it and I know that, as far as I have a small piece of land, let me cultivate it and then do something, do a little farming. So now I put the structure on the pig farms.
Okay, so Stephen, what do you think? What do you think we can do to make the youth show more interest in farming, whether livestock farming or?
That is the reason why I want to show to the youth how we generate something like farming. If you do that, it is an encouragement. But you get to a place when you go through difficulty. But anyway, don't let the difficult to discourage you.
So Stephen says don't allow the challenges, the obstacles, the difficulties prevent you from going into it. I mean, life in itself is full of challenges, isn't it? So thanks, Stephen Wonder, for joining us. 03220-83596. Kofi Bedu. Good morning, Kofi Bedu. Do we have Kofi Bedu on the line? All right, so let me try Asampana. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Is that Asampana?
Yes, David.
Welcome, Asampana. Let's hear you.
David, I trust your good.
The Lord is my shepherd, I am well. Thanks for asking.
David, I'm very passionate when it comes to farming and its related activities. I've been doing this farming since age 22, and I can say for emphasis that it pays a lot, but there are a lot of energy that you need to put into it before you can get something meaningful out of it. And the youth of today won't dare do that. I always say that going into farming has been a very tough decision for a lot of people that I always come across. And they will be lamenting. A certain man came to my farm for some pigs, and he started rearing them. 2 years' time, he wanted to make profit. And I told him, I did this 5 years without selling not even one pig. And now I can boast of a functioning farm of which I can sell a lot of pigs. You see, farming doesn't pay you instantly. It's what we need to tell anybody who wants to go into farming.
Okay, so it's not immediate.
It will take a lot of your time. So we should have patience when it comes to farming, and government upon government keeps telling us that they will help farmers, and that is not true. If you're a farmer and you want to grow, you have to learn how to grow your own and do things on your own, not dependent on anybody. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and let's now speak to our very final caller. James is his name. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome, James.
Thank you. I'm grateful for these healthy discussions that you have raised on your airways. First of all, for agri sector to be lucrative, for agri sector to be appealing to the young people, there should be a good experience from people who have already entered in that sector. Myself, I am a young person. I started farming, poultry farming, I think 2016 till now. I used to have getting to 30,000 beds. But as I speak to you, anybody who is in farming now will bear with you, will bear with all of us, that in fact the situation in this dispensation is beyond our capacity. We cannot handle. You can't get credit facilities. Banks are reluctant to support when they need be. So for Agric to become an avenue where young people can go and then venture into it, it means that we need to do more. I engaged in broilers. When you finish the production, the market is not ready for you, and that the political will must also be established. We have politicians who have invested huge in importation of these frozen chickens.
Yeah.
We live in a country that we don't consume what we produce locally. So the political will, we need to ban the importation of frozen chicken. Else the sector will be bigger.
James, you know what? We have picked your number, James. We're going to call you because it's a conversation that we need to continue. Now, you talk about banning, let's say, the importation of frozen chicken. Now, I've spoken to Boris B., and I think he's the president of the Uganda Poultry Farmers Association. And for him, it's not about banning entirely, but say that we're reducing the number of importation by, let's say, some 60%, and encourage local farmers to produce to meet the difference. Gradually, they'll be producing more, and then gradually we'll keep reducing the number of importation, which of course will go a long way to help us. Listen, it's a conversation we've begun. We need to encourage the youth to do more and consider agriculture as an area of, employment. But we need to ensure that the environment is enabling enough. That is key. And when we talk about enabling enough, we're talking about capital available. We're talking about lands available. We're even talking about accessibility to their farms, so we can go to their farms and bring the produce to the market. And of course, as Ghanaians, let's make use of our own. I was sharing this with you that in agriculture, it contributes about half of the country's GDP, and also provides over 90% of the food need of this country. So it's something that we cannot do away with. But we need to put in the right measures and the right, plans, and we'll be successful in it. Dr. Amos Mensah, your final words before we take leave of.
So thank you very much, David. So quick one on the banning of importation of. I'm in principle against banning anything. So David, if you ban anything, what you are doing is, as a government, you are losing revenue right outwards. You are losing revenue. But if you produce, then you create a black market for it. Okay, so whatever you are banning will still find a way into your market. You are losing revenue. Now you have to go and borrow to police and check this, because now it has become illegal and those kind of things. Don't ban it. So whatever it is, increase the tax on it. Okay,
it just automatically take care of itself.
It takes care of itself, and then use that money to help the very sector. So if it's poultry, for instance, if you increase the tax by a certain margin and you monitor the money comes in. This money is going directly to support Ghanaian poultry farmers to bring them up. What are their problems? Feed, housing, whatever. So the tax increase is not going to buy a V8 or anything. It's going directly into establishing feed mills, all those kind of things, so that within a short, remember, if you increase it beyond certain, because we are also part of the World Trade Organization, somebody will send you there. So before the arbitration is over, you've got enough revenue to establish your people. So even if they force you to reduce your taxes again, your people are already in there.
And it's an area we need to explore, because Rwanda, for example, is doing something amazing.
Exactly.
And we need to tap into it. And everybody makes reference to Rwanda. And so it's Ghana. And we're saying that, our democracy is grown, and we are this and we are this and we are that. Is it reflecting on the ground?
It's not.
So we'll talk some more, and we'll tell you about the Rwanda experience. That's what they're doing in terms of poultry. David Donko, final words from you.
David, I think the Rwanda thing, we should give it
some prominence. We'll give it some space. We'll give it some space.
And the rate at which it's creating employment in Rwanda, it's amazing.
Yeah.
even with the ban of importation of these frozen chicken, Nigeria, our economy is not even 1/10 of Nigeria.
But they banned rice importation.
They've banned rice importation. Yeah. They've banned chicken importation. Why? Because the government has invested so much into broiler production to the extent that now Nigeria only imports 20% from outside. That's even strictly Argentina. The rest, they are producing it locally.
But do we have the capacity? Have we built the structures well enough to be able to produce, to meet the demands? Here you are.
David,
you say that people produce what you call the eggs, and unfortunately, they are not even getting market for the eggs. We'll talk some more, David. We'll talk some more. Thank you very much for joining us. To you, Dr. Amos Mensah, and to you, David Donko. And to the team, Leo Sanleboite, Eugene Osetutu, and of course, to Joel Labie J. My name is David Akuetteh. This has been Love in the Morning.